Hey y'all, hi. So I wanted to make a video about trend predictions in fashion for 2026. And I was about to search and find like some listicles, some reportage, some fashion insiders, and see what those things say, those things and people. And then I was going to kind of compile a list and come and react to that list. I was about to do it. I had my fingers poised over the keyboard and I was like, I made a little guess in my mind. I was like, I think I have a sense of the direction in which people are going to say that we are going. And I wonder if I'm right. But then I stopped myself because I was like, wouldn't it be fun if I shared that idea on YouTube in a video, and then if I searched and we can find out live together if I am right at all. So that's what I'm gonna do. If this is your first time clicking on one of my videos, you probably already clicked away because it's like a really long, vague introduction. But you know, I'm Hannah. I am a writer. I make videos on YouTube about fashion and beauty. You can buy my book. You can subscribe. Links for all of that will be down below. Let's get into the meat of this video. Vocal Fry 2026. I think that we are moving in a less polished direction in fashion. And I specifically think that there is going to be kind of an equal and opposite. I kind of want to make a whole video about this that's not this. So I'm going to try not to spill too many of the beans, but loosely, I think we are becoming interested in ruggedness and a little bit of fraying around the edges of the extreme slick polish of the way in which fashion has manifested like the interior design concept of organic modern. So the all beige, really sculptural, like monochromatic neutrals, that extremely flat white Instagram aesthetic of interiors, the fashion that belongs in that space. You know, like an all cream colored sweatsuit with a cream colored coat on top, unrelieved beige and white simplicity. And the thing is, and this is what I should probably be saving for that other video, there is something really special about those qualities when there is like a wabi-sabi edge to them. Like an undone, a natural edge, a sense that nothing is finished, nothing is perfect. When it's imperfect, I think that organic modern and what has, I think, mostly been referred to in the fashion space as quiet luxury, because it's like quality materials, but used in a way that's not too complex or splashy in terms of the construction of the garments. So organic modern, quiet luxury, it can be done in a way that is like overly perfected and polished and has a slick presentation, or it can be done in a way that is actually organic, meaning like organic in the way of a stick or like raw wood or something where it's okay that it gets dirty. And I feel like what's happening is that we're trying to move from column A to column B. So what I predict is a dismantling or like a gentle earthquaking of the slickness of quiet luxury with a wabi-sabi quality, or with shapes and materials that sort of inherently speak of imperfection or lean towards imperfection. And I also think that there's going to be a more aggressive disrupting of the slickness of that quiet luxury and organic modern vibe, which is like the total opposite. So color, texture, but texture is such an important part of organic modern. So I would say like bold complexity, actually, potentially. Pattern, maybe like pattern mixing. Maybe. That's not really what I'm feeling. I feel like a desire for a sense of character and quirkiness and kind of liberalism, like liberation and liberal thinking through aesthetics to sort of wedge itself into the unrelieved, slick plane of smooth beige flowiness. You know, like that's kind of what I have been wanting, but without necessarily losing entirely the calm and simplicity and relief from pressure, the pressure of aesthetics that can come from embracing like a visual minimalism. Kind of trying to have our cake and eat it too with visual minimalism. That's sort of what that's like what I want. And so to boil it down, I think we're going to see color. I think we're going to see a rejection of, not a rejection, but an interruption and a complication of quiet luxury. But I think that the quiet luxury, the presence will still be, I think there will still be a strong presence of it. I think we're going to see maybe something that indicates like a resistance to technology. Like I wouldn't be surprised if there was something going on in fashion this year that has to do with like unplugging and physical materials like paper and ink and artistry. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like that too. Okay, so those are my predictions in a nutshell. We will return to the topic of these predictions and how I feel like I'm leaning into that, okay? Because I have way more to say on this topic, and maybe I'll be completely wrong. Maybe no one in fashion is thinking along the lines that I just outlined, but that doesn't mean that I can't keep thinking that way and talking about it. So we'll return, but the purpose of this video is to find out what the actual fashion people of the world are saying. Right, I'm gonna Google fashion trend predictions 2026. Vogue, key spring summer fashion trend 2026 trends you can already shop. Teen Vogue, 15 fashion trends that will be everywhere in 2026. That's kind of what I'm interested in, like a zoomed out NYLON. The return of the 2010s and 5 more trend predictions for 2026. All right, let's look at those. Look at Teen Vogue. Teen Vogue says polka dots. I guess that's sort of aligned with what I said about print, but not really. Oh, here's the thing. So I'm talking about this kind of desire for almost like a cheeky and maybe slightly angry sense of liberalism and liberation to sort of insert itself into the slickness of a fashion aesthetic. But I also think that there is like an equal and opposite swelling wave of slickness in the fashion aesthetic at the same time. So I have that desire, but I think that slickness, organic, modern, preppiness, I actually think preppiness is kind of like goes along with that. You know, that sort of uncomfortable old money, like fake old money vibe that we've seen going on with the sort of, what was it? The like English country riding jacket, boots, that kind of thing. Like all of that, I think that's still swelling, right? So we're going to see that. It's not what I want, but we're going to see that as well. And polka dots could kind of be employed either way. I'm skipping this because I'm just not interested in it. Checkered prints. So we have 2 prints right out of the gate. It says that this plaid and checkered, they're saying checkered, but they're showing plaid. It says think grunge going mainstream again. So that does kind of align with what I was saying, right? Grunge is definitely that kind of charred edge of the wabi-sabi that I meant. Layered outfits. Hello. Log and look. We just talked about this at the end of last year. I did that whole video about styles at large, like personal style guiding principles that allow you to move and be free and spry, but still have a lot of character. And log and look was one of them. This is exciting. I'm excited to see that there's a prediction of layering and layered looks. And I do think that layering is a bit anti-establishment. You know what I mean? It's a little bit punk, no matter what the overall style is. So I'm here for it, and I do think that it aligns. Brooches aligns with my predictions. Brooches, never would have guessed. What is a brooch for? Grandma core vibes that we've seen building in the past few years. I don't really have any interest in wearing a brooch personally. This is a bit out of left field for me. Preppy-go-lucky, says Teen Vogue. So yeah, as predicted. But the pictures that they're showing of the prep aesthetic are showing people deploying it in a bit of an undone way. So that's kind of interesting. Like the bad kid at the prep school. Wedge sneakers, never would have guessed. And this is a real throwback, right? I guess the 2010s Isabel Marant wedge sneaker. I remember really, really wishing I could have a pair of those or even a knockoff at a time when I couldn't even afford to buy a knockoff. It's funny to see them coming back again now because it doesn't feel like that long ago to me. That's because I am now middle-aged and it was kind of a long time ago. Chocolate brown, love to see it. Now chocolate brown is a strong contributor to the quiet luxury aesthetic. Chocolate brown is one of the shades in which the quiet luxury aesthetic is being painted, but I still absolutely love it. And I think it's earthy and it can easily kind of translate to a slightly less rigorous, maybe less uncomfortably perfected and polished version of that aesthetic. I'm happy to have it still here as a backdrop, right? Or as something with which to play. I would be sad to see chocolate brown depart this soon after it started kind of replacing black as the main neutral. So glad to see it's still on trend prediction list. We'll keep going for at least another year. Knit scarves, when were they ever out? When were we like, we don't like knit scarves? Like knit scarves are it's kind of, to me, knit scarves on a list like this, that's like saying warm winter coats are trending in winter. Like what? No, I have no time for this. Low-rise pants. Low-rise jeans are back, but not in the classic 00s way. Denim is a cornerstone, low-rise denim. Yeah, low-rise, wide-leg denim. I'm into that right now. I get it. I unaccountably have been into this silhouette too. And I do think that it speaks of, and you know, we're getting some of this from the enduring impact of Gen Z, but it does speak of a kind of nonconformity. So I understand that in addition to like enjoying it. Tracksuit pants, sportswear on its own is in. Interesting. I feel like a tracksuit pant, I don't really have anything to say about this. I'm just gonna skip it. I don't know where it fits in my prediction, and I don't myself have a desire to wear tracksuit pants, so I'm not going to speak on it. Silk scarves, I've been talking a lot about wanting to incorporate silk scarves in a way that's not preppy. Like that's the interesting thing, is we're seeing people wear silk scarves, but in an everyday way or in like a grungy way. Cuteness. Teen Vogue predicts that cuteness, Labubu's, coquette sneakers to Labubu's. This was not part of my prediction, but I might just be out of this part of the loop. This part of the loop is like not overlapping the Venn diagram with what I'm paying attention to. I believe it. I believe cuteness might be coming back in. Futuristic aesthetic, like metallics. Interesting. That wasn't what I predicted. And also I specifically said that I thought that we would be doing like a technology resistance dressing this year. And this to me is kind of the opposite of that, like futuristic fabrics and stuff. So interesting. It was like the opposite of what I said. Boho. Oh, I'm so tired of boho being on fashion prediction lists. I think boho never goes away. Chloe is back, says this list. Chloe has never gone anywhere. And Chloe has also been coming. It didn't go anywhere. And then it also already came back like last year. We've been saying, everybody has been saying on every list, boho is back, but boho never went anywhere. It's too broad of a category. Everyone is always on some level interacting with like the design principles of boho. I've had it with this. 80s maximalism. So what I was describing at the beginning when I was talking about organic modern, quiet luxury, that's all like minimalism adjacent. And I didn't use the word minimalism very much, if at all, in the intro when I was talking about my predictions, because I feel like it's a bit reductive right at this point. I wanted to be a little more specific than that. That doesn't really make sense. I feel like people's minds go to one place in particular with minimalism. I wanted to be more nuanced than that. Okay, so it kind of does make sense to say that it was too reductive. But I think to see maximalism and maximalist trends, this is like a specific maximalist trend, like 80s maximalism, big suits. To see that on lists like this does align with what I was predicting. In a way, I think I didn't zoom out enough to be like, we've been minimalist and now people are going to be wanting to be maximalist. I was presenting something a little more specific and more nuanced than that. But in essence, bluntly, that is kind of what I was saying. So this doesn't surprise me. It's maybe like a more easily digestible way of talking about what I was trying to talk about. A return of maximalism in a way. But to me, I think it's like a return of maximalism without fully relinquishing the beauty of the type of minimalism that the fashion world has been toying with. And in a way, this suit, I think that might be Hailey Bieber in this suit. An 80s style, super oversized shoulder pads, menswear suit. That is kind of like a minimalist maximalism. It is visual minimalism in a way. There's not that much going on in the outfit. A suit is pretty minimalist inherently, but to do it in this overblown way is kind of bold. It's maximalist in that it's bold and it's not like slick. You know what I mean? It's not slick and smooth. So it makes sense. I wouldn't have gone there myself, but it makes sense. Okay, so that's what we have from Teen Vogue. As ever, this listicle is like very zoomed in. It's like polka dots specifically. And so I'm having to sort of take those really small specific things and try to piece them into the scope of what I've been thinking about. Let's see what NYLON says. NYLON, the return of the 2010s and 5 more trend predictions for 2026. The little heading says, get your clubbing dresses out of storage, girls. Trend 1, pop of red, pop of purple. So pops of color, right? Pops of bright color in an otherwise monochromatic outfit. This is basically, can we have a moment? This is basically exactly what I was saying. I don't think a pop of color in an otherwise monochromatic outfit is the only way to manifest this, but it is definitely one way. It is definitely kind of an energetically effortless way to do it. And it's something I've talked a lot about on YouTube last year in fashion videos. So it's really interesting to see it so specifically here on this list. It's like, take your beige sweatsuit with your beige coat and your beige boots that you were wearing 2 years ago, and then add a bright purple scarf or, a bright yellow pair of socks. You've made it fresh, a little fresher for this year. Next up on this list, it's 2010 all over again. The early to mid 2010s were a time of excess, with the rise of the Kardashians' power and a surge in clubbing outfits and excessive amounts of face contour. Interesting. This is saying the gaudy, recklessly sexy styles of 10 years ago are going to feel fresh again. If this is true, and I think this is another way of saying like maximalism and rough, undone, grunge, messiness, and a kind of freedom, like pushing through the unrelieved plane of slick minimalism, you know? So yeah, it's like another version of that. If this is true, I hope that we see a resuscitation of clubbing, recklessly sexy clubbing outfits, but without the like body dysmorphia and obsession with being a certain shape that accompanied this trend the first time 10 years ago. Because I think that's one of the beautiful things that Gen Z is doing for fashion, just more visuals, like more resources for like training the brain to know the truth, which is that every body is lovely. So I hope that we see this trend play out across the loveliness of every body in a way that it didn't the first time. I worry that it won't, you know, so I see this and I feel a little bit worried that the trend will come back and also the pressure and the stringency will come back, but I'm trying to be optimistic. The same thing about the 80s, it's saying, and I have the same thing to say about the 80s, which is actually also how I have felt about the return of 90s fashion that we've been seeing. And there have been some really hopeful reframings of these fashion eras as they have retrended. So we'll see that. Gosh, tacky sofa prints, I'm not into it, actually. This is really specific. I've enjoyed this list so far because it's been more zoomed out, right? Instead of polka dots, it's talking about like trending aesthetics and the reason for them. But this next item on the list is much more specific. It's talking about a dropped waist, which could have just been a subset of the 80s list, the 80s item on the list, like return of the 80s. But I guess if the person who wrote this article really, really thinks that a dropped waist is suddenly going to be aggressively trending everywhere, then it makes sense to put it on here. Oh no. Skinny jeans, ellipsis, question mark is on this list. No, don't tell me this NYLON magazine. The great denim pendulum is slowly inching back. That doesn't make, well, I guess if it's swinging very slowly, the pendulum, then it's inching. But I feel like we're mixing our metaphors there because what a pendulum does, my friends, is that it swings. It doesn't inch. Pendulum doesn't inch along. But the great denim pendulum, this article says, is slowly inching back toward the calf-sucking shape. Calf-sucking? Whenever I complain about the way these things are written, everyone in the comments is like, AI, it's AI, everything's written by AI, which could be the issue. But, you know, there are still people out there writing for periodicals like this, and I think that it's perfectly possible that somebody out there wrote this, right? And it feels like that person just like put every word into a thesaurus and then picked an alternate word instead of the original word, maybe AI. What this article is trying to say by the great denim pendulum is slowly inching back towards the calf-sucking shape is that jeans may get skinny again. I am not here for this. I am not here for this. It's too soon. We need at least a decade. It's too soon, and it also does not align with what I want to see emotionally and spiritually in fashion. The looseness and the rebelliousness of the looseness feels correct, okay? And going back to this like sucked in bodycon denim, do not take me back to that. I won't go. Pump. I like a heel personally. You know, I've been a tango dancer for a couple of decades now and I love to dance in heels. So to me, it feels like a kind of sportswear. And these are beautiful, visually beautiful examples. So I could go for it. But it doesn't fit in the idea of like, here's the thing. People didn't stop wearing heels. Okay. It's another one of those things that's like, what are we talking about? Like when you say, oh, pumps are back. Pump heels are back. It's like, what are you talking about? Did you see a bunch of them, people wearing them? Were they not wearing them before? I don't think so. It sort of feels like grasping at straws. So I'm not that interested in this prediction. Let us look at one more. Let's look at Harper's Bazaar. Generally, I like their articles about this type of thing. And this is our fashion predictions for 2026, Harper's Bazaar. Harper's Bazaar is predicting drop waists and primary colors will be everywhere. So this is the second time we've seen drop waists. We think waistlines will drop. It looks like someone designing for Chanel had a bunch of dropped waists in his debut collection. And so that's why everybody's talking about it. I don't know if that's a good foundation on which to rest this claim that drop waists will be everywhere. But loose, slinky silhouettes, classic shirting, skirt suits, primary colors. Yes. Okay. Interesting. Y'all, this says things might get a little louder this year. This is in the context of talking about primary colors surging. And this Harper's Bazaar article is very clearly deeply grounded in what has been on runways specifically. Things might get a little louder this year as the pendulum swings away from quiet luxury. Loud, exaggerated, and colorful references to the 80s. So they're talking about this, the 80s vibe, as being part of the surge of maximalism. Oh, there were just 4 or 5 things on this list, and the other ones were more specific to the fashion world. So it's saying like creative directors. This is very like fashion insider business. So I don't think that the rest of this article is going to help us out very much. But I'm glad that I looked at it because it did have that core sort of confirmation that what I have been sensing is, in fact, at least according to some people, starting to happen or potentially might happen, which is like, I don't know. I think that it's boring and reductive to say like the pendulum swings back from quiet luxury to maximalism, and maximalism back to minimalism back to maximalism. It's like, it's not that simple. I think it's much more interesting to think about retaining what we have come to really appreciate about minimalist dressing. Like for me, I have found that minimalist dressing is so much less stressful than putting together complex outfits with a bunch of moving parts. And it has really allowed me to access like a calm and an elegance in the way that I wear my clothing that I've never had before in my life because I was more of a maximalist before. So even though I am now starting to grow weary and a little bit leery of sort of like the visual implications of a completely slick, composed, like falsely wealthy feeling, smoothed over, monochromatic minimalism, like I've started to not really want to like be following that blueprint or not to go too far down that path. But it doesn't mean like abandoning it completely and then going totally in the other direction, right? It means retaining what has been really useful for me, like the foray into minimalist dressing, and being able to continue to wear the pieces of clothing that I acquired and that I've been breaking in and bonding with during this time, like staying in that space, but gently reintroducing some excitement, some rebellion, and some maximalist nuance. I think that's much more realistic, much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Economical. Like it's a much smarter way to live one's life with one's closet. Like you can't just like throw out your entire closet simply because the pendulum is inching back towards, you know what I mean? It's like you gotta live, you gotta wear your clothes, and especially if you bought really beautiful pieces or investment pieces, you know, it's like we are still gonna be wearing our beautiful clothes. So it's a matter of gently moving the pieces around, gently introducing something here and there, just a very slight shifting of the perspective, but with all of those same pieces still in play. I think, you know, fashion articles and fashion insiders like this are always going to be like, skinny jeans are back in, throw away all your wide leg jeans, buy a whole bunch of new jeans, because it's a sales industry, you know? And we, I think, are responsible then for taking that extreme and unrealistic position, applying the implications of it, the philosophy of it in a rational way to our daily lives, like to our lived experience. And in this case, for me, that means doing what I was talking about at the beginning and just being like, I'm still wearing all of those beautiful pieces. I'm recombining things in a way and adding accessories here and there in a way that gives the composed outfit a bit more of a sense of humor and of freedom. So that's all. Was I right? Kind of. I was kind of right. And then there's like a lot that I would never have thought of, like polka dots and drop waist. Like I didn't watch the shows, so I didn't know that all of the Chanel waists are dropped, and now everyone thinks drop waists are everywhere. Like I wouldn't have had a way of knowing that. So there are some surprises. In general, my finger's on the pulse. And that means you should subscribe to my channel and keep watching me for 2026 if you want to know what's style and fashion. Okay. Thanks for being here, y'all. I appreciate you so much. I want to know what you think. Like, what do you feel the wind, if you're like, the wind is shifting, like the style winds are shifting, what has occurred to you? What have you seen and noticed? What I think is the most interesting kind of trend is when you suddenly find in yourself a passionate desire to wear something that you don't know why. You're suddenly like, I desperately want like to wear yellow socks or something, and you can't even really put your finger on it. And then you realize that that's a bunch of other people are having that same impulse too. you, and you don't know whether you learned it from each other or someone taught it to you, or if it just arose organically from within the earth. Is anything striking you like that? Let me know in the comments. I'm so interested to know what all of you are thinking in terms of like the slight changes in the way we think of style that are coming about at the beginning of this year. So yes, that is it. Thanks again. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself, because no matter what, you deserve that.